to Spoiler Piece Theater, the podcast that doesn't give a shit about spoilers. We just want to talk about the movies. My name is Evan Crean. My pronouns are he, him. I am co-chair of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, co-author of your 80s Movie Guide to Better Living, and co-host of the It's the Pictures podcast.
My name is Megan Kearns. My pronouns are she, her. I write film reviews for Edge Media Network. I'm a co-host of the Slashers podcast. I too am a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association and a member of Gallica, the Society of LGBTQ Entertainment Critics.
And my name is Dave Riedel. I'm also a member of the Boston Online. What am my pronouns are he, him, and I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association. I got confused by the salute there. Because I was looking away and then I looked over and I was like, what the fuck? And then I was like, oh, you're doing your thing.
Yeah, sorry.
Who do you write for, Dave?
Oh, I write for some shit.
I write for
Google's
some shit.
Some shit, Dave Riedel.
Right. And put it in quotes. It's not a Boolean search. Put it in quotes.
All right. I'm trying to regain my traction here.
Sorry.
Reel it in, reel it
it's
in.
Okay. So we're here to talk about movies as we always are. But before we get to this week's movies, I want to mention that over on our Patreon this week, our exclusive audio that we do, we are talking about the winner of our AAPI Heritage Month poll, The Wedding Banquet, the 1993 Ang Lee film, when we had a lot of fun talking about that movie. And it's been on a list for us for a little while to see. We're all glad we were able to check it out. So if you're a patron, check that out. And if you're not a patron, please consider joining. For $5 a month, you get weekly bonus episodes, usually on older films, so higher likelihood you've seen the movies we're spoiling. And you also get to vote in monthly polls, like the one I just mentioned. So that's pretty cool, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
And while I'm at it, I want to say thank you to our sponsor, Peace Patient, Heather Sachs. Thank you, Heather.
Thanks, Heather.
Thank you, Heather.
Moving on to the movies for this week. We have two we're going to be talking about. We are going to be talking about the Viggo Mortensen written and directed Western, The Dead Don't Hurt. Yeehaw.
It's not really a yeehaw
Not a
kind of
yeehaw
movie.
movie, but
I
I'm
didn't
here
think
for it
so.
anyway.
And we're going to be talking about the cheerleading drama, Backspot. So we're going to lead off with The Dead Don't Hurt, which Megan and Dave saw. I'll just, do the quick IMDb, and then I'll let you two take it away. So as I mentioned, written and directed by Viggo Mortensen. It stars Viggo Mortensen, Vicky Krieps. It looks like, who else? Danny Houston, Garrett Dillahunt. Some guys who are well known for playing rapscallions and scoundrels.
Yeah.
And
They commit a lot of brouhaha and ballyhoo. I don't know. That's more fun stuff, but you get the idea.
yeah. And then our one sentence IMDb is: two pioneers fight for their lives and their love on the American frontier during the Civil War. So how bad is that plot summary,
Oh my
gang?
God.
It's pretty bad.
That is horrendous.
That is actually kind of negligent.
Yeah, that's like spectacularly bad.
I mean, yeah, we get some bad one sentence IMDb descriptions, but that is just piss poor. So
Yeah.
Megan can explain it though.
Oh, I was like, Dave. you
Voluntold
should.
again, Megan.
I know.
And I'm left holding the bag. Oh.
Yeah. All right. So this is a Western. And this is a Western that's interesting in that it spans a bit of time and jumps back and forth between the past and the present. And we start off with the death of Vicky Krieps' character. And Viggo Mortensen is by her side. As it moves back and forth, one of the things is I'm terrible at this description. I'm going to warn you all right now because I don't know anyone's names except for Olsen, who's Viggo Mortensen.
Her name's Vivian.
Vivian. How could I forget? That's right. Thank you, Vivian. But then there's the guy, Jeffries, who is the son of
Weston Jeffries.
Thank you. Who is, see, you should have done this. Who is the son of Garrett Dillahunt's character, who is like the head big shot in town. Like he's the wealthy guy and he's like funding the saloon and he's basically pulling a lot of strings legally and so on and so forth. And so you see Weston Jeffries pretty early in the film. He is just straight up murdering people. He kills the saloon owner. He's killing somebody else. He kills somebody who tries to stop him, and then he takes
Kills
off.
the piano player.
Yes, he does kill the piano player.
It's a lot of killing.
A lot of killing. So Viggo Mortensen, who plays Olsen, he is the sheriff. And as he's burying Vicky Creeps along with their son, their small child, Danny Houston comes along and he's like, hey, we've got some problems. We've got, got some murder in.
It's an old-fashioned killing.
Some good old-fashioned killing. Yeah, and Olsen's not really all that concerned. He's pretty focused on burying his partner, and so and there's a very sweet moment where the son like pushes the dirt into the grave, and he's like, "Good boy." So anyway, then you see a trial that's basically a kangaroo court trial where some other guy is accused of killing these people. And this one lady she keeps standing up and she's like, we all know he didn't do it. We all know Weston Jeffries did it. We all know. And the judge is like, I'll have order in my court and sit down. And so this other guy basically takes the rap for him and he's hung to death, and very disturbing as hangings are. And yeah, and then so you see Olsen venture out. He basically like gives up everything and he goes with the little boy on a trek on horseback. And you can kind of suspect where it's going, but it is to get the guy, Weston Jeffries. But in between all of that, you're also seeing Vivian. You're seeing her background. You're seeing her as a child with her parents. And you're seeing how she was very independent right from a young age. Her mother would read about Joan of Arc to her, and she was like, I want to be like Joan of Arc, and I want to be like Dad, and I want to fight. And her mother's like, well, women fight in different ways. And she's like, no, I want to be a warrior. And which is, interesting. And then Vivian is no longer a child. We see her as an adult woman, and she's betrothed or dating some douchebag who's rich.
Total asshole.
Oh, total douchebag. And she wants nothing to do with him very clearly. And he keeps wanting to like buy her off. And she's like, I don't want this. I don't want that. She wants nothing to do with him. So then she meets Olsen, and they have immediate chemistry, an immediate spark and banter. And it's very like light and sweet and fun. And she like lights up. And yeah, so they start a romance, and then she travels with him to his home out west. Well, actually not out west, out east, because they start off in like San Francisco, and then they're going, I believe, to Nevada to where his home is, and kind of the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, really the middle of
really
nowhere.
The middle of nowhere. And she's pissed, not because it's the middle of nowhere per se, but because there's no trees, there's no flowers, and she loves to garden, and she loves trees, and she loves plants. And she's like, there's no trees, there's no plants. And so he starts like almost immediately like digging her a garden, and so she can garden. And he wants to marry her, but she's like, no, I'm too independent for that. I won't marry any man. But it's very clear that she's committed to him and wants to be with him and loves him dearly. And she then gets a job at the saloon, and then there's like a kerfuffle because Weston Jeffries is there, and she's talking to the saloon owner, who, by the way, sidebar, I love, is played by W. Earl Brown, who is the voice of Bill from The Last of Us. Love that. And he's great in his part. And Weston Jeffries is there, and he keeps jumping in, and he's like, of course we can hire you. And he's a creep because he doesn't own the bar, but because his father is like funding it, he acts like he owns it, and it's gross. So she starts working there, and then Olsen's not ticked off, but he's like, oh, why do you need to work? And she's like, cause I do. I have my own things I want to do, and I want to make my own money. And he's like, oh, okay. But then he didn't tell her about a job that he was doing where he was building a barn, like a second barn for Jeffries' father. And then a guy comes in to the saloon and says, hey, we're looking for men to join up, basically to fight in the Civil War. And so Olsen decides he's going to do that. Vivian is pissed. Vivian is like, what the fuck? Don't do this. You're too old. Don't go fight. And he's like, no, I got to see what's going on. She's like, what's going on. And so he basically is like, no, screw you. I'm going. So he leaves. She's pissed.
No, screw you. I'm going.
He does not say that. He's very nice about it. But basically, that's his
Olsen is a very gentle man.
Yes, he is. He's extremely kind, extremely gentle. He's lovely. But he's like, I got to do this. So he takes off. And so she's there at the house and she's going about her business and gardening and doing stuff on her own. And then, wouldn't you know it, Winston Jeffries comes along and he's a motherfucking creep and he keeps being a creeper. And then, surprise, surprise, he shows up to her house and he's like, hey, you're giving me the feels. And she's like, get the fuck out, basically.
She's like, I'm not giving you the feels.
Yeah, no, fuck off.
You go fucking.
And then, and then he slaps her and he tries to choke her and she slashes him with glass, which is great that she slashes him. And then he rapes her. We don't see it on screen, thankfully. But that's what happens. It is inferred that that's what happens. And then it cuts ahead a bit and she's pregnant and she's still going about her days. And but before that, she has a moment where she thinks she's going to leave. She's about to leave. She's like, fuck this. I've got all my bags packed. I'm leaving. But she doesn't. She stays. And so then we skip ahead and she's very pregnant. And then she has the baby. She has her son. And she teaches him French, which is her first language. And she reads to him Joan of Arc, all this and that. And then he's like 4 years old. And then finally, Olsen comes back home and is surprised because he has a son. And she does reveal to him that he is not hers. Not his. And what happened. And and then she gets syphilis. And which, of course, venereal disease, like shocker, the creep gave her that, and fucking rapist. Anyway, and so she dies, and then we cut back to the current quote unquote time where Olsen is tracking down Weston Jeffries and to kill him and kills him.
I don't think that he's actually intending to kill him. I think that, he's
Really?
looking for him. Well, here's the thing, because he doesn't kill him. He leaves him with a scar, which, and I was kind of like, well, that's sort of poetic. She scarred his face and now he's scarred his neck, I
got the sense he was going to bleed out. And so he's just letting him
think
bleed.
He probably is. Yeah. I think the reason he didn't shoot him was because Vincent came around the corner and was like, what's going on, Papa?
Right. The poor
Listen, son, look away. I'm killing a man.
Yeah. Well, he does tell him, he's like, go hide over here.
Yeah. I thought for sure that Vincent was going to get shot in one of those wayward shots.
For sure.
And thank God he doesn't.
Yes.
I would have been like, well, I went from really liking this movie a lot to hating the fuck out of it.
I know.
Yeah.
But yes, that's my very detailed overview of what happens in the movie because there's a lot happening.
There's a lot happens in this movie.
Sounds dense.
It is dense, and it is slow moving, but in a good way.
Yeah, I was like, it is dense, but I didn't feel it. Like, it didn't feel like, oh, this is so, laborious. Like, no. Yeah. So Dave, what did you liked it. So I want to hear more about.
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah.
Loved it. I don't know that I'd ever call myself a Vicky Creeps fan, but she is perfect for this part. Just so assured and intensely smart and not putting up with any shit. And the thing that's interesting about this is like, so she's SA'd, but she slashes his face and like almost, it's just like, it's basically like a half inch under his eye. And he doesn't interact with her again. And I think he's afraid of her, after that, even though he is, a gigantic piece of shit who forced himself on her. But I don't know. She's and she makes the decision to tell Olsen, and because I was actually wondering there for a moment. I was like, now, is there a chance that she was pregnant when Olsen left, and I was like, nah, the fucking movie wouldn't do that.
Yeah. No, I thought that too, but I'm like, no,
yeah,
we're not going that way.
Well, and it's also because of the way that the jumping around in time happens.
Right,
There's no explanation for what's going on. So for the first couple of scenes, you're like, wait a minute, what happened to the kid? Why are they talking like they don't know each other? What's going? Oh, this is a flashback.
Yeah.
You know, and that took me a couple of scenes. I'm like, and like they're in the town, and she's like, you know, the guy is like, oh, fuck you, Vicky Creeps, I don't like you anymore, or whatever he says. That dipshit that she's
such a dipshit
courting her. Or I should say that dipshit who's courting her, because it's a person, not a thing. And
he's like a thing.
He kind of is like a thing. Subconsciously, that was what was going through my mind. And I mean, I was kind of wondering at the beginning. I'm like, is this a fridging movie? This seems strange.
I mean,
but it's not.
It kind of is, but not in the traditional way, right?
Yeah. Well, she's also the main character, which, I mean,
100%.
Viggo Mortensen is only on screen for, 35 minutes maybe, and she's on screen for like the entire 2 hours, basically.
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah, no, I usually am like livid, pissed off, rip shit about fridging stories. And this is like, if you want to get real technical, it is, but it doesn't feel like it because it's her story. So yeah, I agree with you.
And it
Remind
does take
me again what fridging is.
It's the trope women in refrigerators, where basically a male protagonist is spurred to action based on a woman in his life's death.
Gotcha. Okay.
Does that come from Slumber Party Massacre?
No.
Okay, just wondering.
No, it comes from I can't remember which comic book storyline, but it comes from a comic book storyline where a woman was actually put in a refrigerator.
Right. Well, that's kind of figured that. But the reason I thought Slumber Party Massacre is because one of them ends up in the refrigerator.
That is true. That is true.
So, yeah, I think that this is, I mean, one of the things that I think was interesting about it is Garrett Dillahunt, who plays this asshole's father, hates his own kid.
Yes, he does.
Like, intensely hates him.
Yes. Makes no bones about it. Doesn't hide it.
But also is just kind of like, well, he's my kid. Fuck. It's kind of got that
right.
attitude.
I hate him, but he's my son.
Yeah, he actually says at one point, he's like, I cannot fathom like the depths of, your, what does he say? Just your orneriness or something like that. And it's like, of course, it's 1865. Of course he would put it that way.
He also does say, I'm surrounded by idiots at one point, including his own son. Right.
Well, they have that face off where the kid is like got the gun in his dad's face, and his dad is unafraid, which is like the gun's 2 inches from his forehead, and he's like, "Yeah, fuck you, kid."
That's a balls move,
and just bats the gun like away from him. I mean, it's just kind of proving that Weston Jeffries, the son, is just a gigantic piece of shit because no one's afraid of him.
Yeah, no one's afraid of him. No one likes him. Like nobody. Like
there's no explanation for why he shoots and kills everyone, other than the fact that he's crazy.
Yeah.
And
racist.
Right, and he had already been sent.
He's racist. He hates. He's a crazy.
And he had been sent out of town.
Yes.
Because he had killed another. He'd killed somebody else.
Yep.
Who was just popular enough in the town that they were like, "You got to get out of here." So
it's a mess.
Yeah, it's really just a bizarre. But I mean, it's a good looking movie. It's a really well acted movie. I mean, the guy who plays Weston Jeffries, I know he's in some other stuff. I haven't seen it. He's great.
He is great.
So nice to see Garrett Dillahunt, even though I do like him playing nicer characters. But that I remembered he and Viggo Mortensen are in something together. I can't remember what it was. So that's he's in The Road. That's right. With Viggo. So anyway, I just really dug this a lot. I mean, this is my kind of slow moving Western. Now, lots of things do happen. Nothing happens, which is my favorite kind of movie. But it's really dense. It's a very humanistic portrayal of these people, and it is, although technically a fridging story, as we would say, this is really Vivian's story. And I was so brokenhearted when she was like having the dream that her father came back from the war, and then then he really wasn't. It was just like a like an imagining she had when she was a kid.
I know.
I was like, oh, her dad didn't come back.
That was beautifully done, too, the way we see her as a little girl in the woods and she imagines her father as a medieval knight.
Yeah.
It's so visually gorgeous the way it's crafted. Oh, yeah.
I know. I should have known better, too, because I'm like, well, if this is like 1865, then her dad is like, if the bulk of the movie is taking place in 1865, and she's probably, if I had to guess, I mean, I don't know how Vicky, let's say 35. So she's born in 1830. So her dad wouldn't be wearing a suit of armor in 1837.
No. Anyway you slice it, no, he would not be.
Yeah. I also had to look up the war that Olsen referenced having fought in back when he was in Denmark. And I was like, oh, that's a real war. Oh, okay. So, I really liked this a lot. I don't really have any complaints, really. Do you have complaints?
No, I agree with everything you said. The cinematography is stunning, and this is
that closing ocean shot.
God, the closing shot is of the ocean because he wants to take his son to the ocean. Ah, loved it. It's so meaningful, but also just beautiful visually.
Yeah.
The way this is shot, the way it's lit, framed, everything just looks gorgeous. Looks so well crafted. This is
Viggo wrote the music too, by the way.
You stole my thing. I was going to say that.
Sorry. I know. And I also want to apologize for calling him by his first name. You know that I don't do that.
Yes. No, but now he wrote it.
But his name's Viggo. It's
he's the
you got to call him Viggo.
I love that he stars in it. He wrote it. He directed it. He produced it. He wrote the music. And the music is beautiful too. I love the music. And I've always loved Viggo Mortensen ever since 28 Days Later with Sandra Bullock. He is amazing in it. He steals the show. He is so good, and I adore him in everything. And I think he's a really fascinating actor and filmmaker, and he makes really interesting choices. And I think that's really reflected here. I think there are a lot of really interesting choices made, both visually and narratively. I love Vicky Krieps. She's phenomenal in Phantom Thread, and I think she is outstanding here. She's
really great.
She is just magnetic, but in a really subtle and restrained way. And yet, you articulated it perfectly, Dave, about her not taking shit, and she holds her own. And it's really refreshing because I love Westerns too, but Westerns don't always depict women characters. And if they do, they're often ancillary to men. And of course, there are exceptions. There's Kelly Reichardt's Western and The Wind and Westward the Women. And, there are various exceptions to that. But for the most part, and then there's the Queer Love Story. That's kind of a Western that now I can't think of. It came out a couple of years ago. Can't think of the name. It just escaped me. Anyway, but I love that we get a woman-centric film here. The one thing that is a little I don't want to say icky, but for lack of a better word, icky, is that the minute Olsen leaves, that's when she gets raped. So I'm kind of I don't know. There was something about that because I'm like, God, I hope the takeaway isn't oh, geez, she needs a man. But of course not. Of course that's not the takeaway because she can 100% fend for herself. She can 100% take care of herself. And
I think he chokes her out too. I think that she's not awake for that. It looks like that the way it's shot.
Maybe I'd rather not think about it, but
I know you're right.
But no,
you're absolutely right.
That's a fair but that's a very fair point. That scene I kind of had to, for personal reasons, had to kind of gloss over. Sure. But but I think you're right. But I think but rape and sexual assault are things that tragically happen, and I think that. I appreciate the choice made to not show it on screen. It doesn't need to be. There's no need to be traumatizing or triggering to survivors. And and you get the sense of what's going on. And I also think it's a really interesting visual choice that and one I really applaud, that it afterwards, the next day, the camera is really it lingers on her and her feelings and her emotions. And we really stay with her. And I very much appreciate that and how it's done. So Yeah, I thought this was fantastic. Incredibly well acted, like beautifully shot, beautifully scored. And it does a lot of things. Like it takes a lot of tropes and it either subverts them or it depicts them in a way that's much more nuanced and complex than a lesser film would do. So,
yeah. And this movie also made me think that for a hot second, Danny Houston was going to be a nice guy because when he first shows up,
don't ever believe that.
I know when he first shows up, he's like, "Oh, Olsen, I'm so sorry.
Right.
And would you like me to send the preacher out?" And more bad news. There were murders in town, and he seems kind of like broken up about it. And then you realize later, oh, it's all a fucking act.
Mm-hmm.
He knows exactly what happened. The son of a bitch.
Exactly. And I think Olsen knows that. Not that he knows. Maybe
Olsen absolutely knows that.
Like he knows he knows this guy's a piece of shit. So
yeah, Olsen doesn't speak a lot, but it's not because he's a dum-dum.
No,
he just doesn't speak a lot.
No, and I love Viggo Mortensen's depiction of Olsen. I know we talked about this before, but just his depiction of a man in such a Westerns are such a, they're so entrenched in masculinity and like depictions of masculinity, stereotypical ones. And I love that he subverts that too by being like very tender, very gentle. He's a gentle person, gentle soul, but he's also very tender with Vivian. He's very tender with their son. And I love that. I love that he's like, yes, he's kind of on a vengeance quest, sort of, but he's not like the swaggering, like, stereotypical brooding type of protagonist we get. And I love that.
Ditto.
And Viggo's just so good. I love Viggo Mortensen.
Yeah, he's very good.
So good.
So anyway.
So this is a great film.
Agreed.
I don't know if it'll be my speed, but it certainly sounds good based on your description.
Well, we are correct. So
I was going to ask you before if Danny Houston flashed his trademark devilish grin at some point in this.
No, he never does.
No, he keeps his eyebrows in check, thank God.
It's a really understated role for him.
Yes. Yeah, everybody is very, very understated, which I appreciate.
Except for maybe Weston Jeffries.
Yeah, except for Weston Jeffries. Yeah.
That kind of sounds like it's the point of his character is to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else you want to add about?
The only thing I will add is I really liked Vivian's friendship with the piano player too, and how
that was sweet.
Yeah, the piano player and his wife, I believe, who we don't see on screen but is talked about, and his daughter are very, very kind to her and very supportive and teach her Spanish, and she teaches them French, and they take her in and like she has dinners with them. Like it's just very lovely.
And Vincent spends a lot of time with her mom.
Yes.
With the piano player's wife. So yeah. It's a nice relationship.
Yeah. It's nice that not every dude in that town is a scumbag.
Yeah. And I'm sure
just three of the big ones.
I was going to jokingly say hashtag not all men.
Oh, boo.
People like to abuse that.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So it sounds like we're ready to move on then.
Yeah.
To talk about Backspot. So Backspot is a drama. It is written and directed by D.W. Watterson and written by Joanne Sarrazin. And it stars Devery Jacobs, Evan Rachel Wood. I hope I'm going to pronounce this name right. Kudagwashe Rutendo, Sharon Sossaman, and Thomas Anthony Olajide. I hope I pronounced that correctly too. So our IMDb plot summary. Riley is given the chance to cheer with the all-star squad Thunderhawks. With a competition looming, Riley must navigate her crippling anxiety, her relationship with her girlfriend, and her desperate need for approval from her new coach. Yeah, I guess
Facts.
so. Yeah, I guess that's an accurate-ish summary. Yeah, so Riley is played by Devery Jacobs. The film opens with a cheerleading practice. We were already kind of seeing that even though she's on I guess it's not clear to me whether it's actually connected with their school or if it's just like a straight up extracurricular cheer team. It seems like possibly the latter. So I guess I was gonna say she's on like the JV squad, but that's not probably quite accurate. But it already seems like she's kind of, feeling the pressure to perform and to do well. Her and her girlfriend are on the cheer squad together, and they have, a group of friends. And then the Thunderhawks, which is coached by Evan Rachel Wood, is down some team members due to injuries. And so it looks like, they're going to want to call some people up. So her girlfriend, and their friend, Rachel, they all get called up to join the Thunderhawks. And yeah, it's a high pressure situation. They've got a competition in a couple of weeks that they have to prepare for. So they have to practice extra hard. Plus, the coaches, one of those hard ass coaches is like, okay, everybody run all the time and practice it 5 million times. And, I'm going to be stern. I'm going to be tough. I don't know if I'm going to be fair, but I'm definitely going to be tough. And yeah, it's Riley just trying to balance all those pressures of like school, relationship, having her girlfriend on the same team, things at home with her mom that seem not so great. Her mom is, or her dad is abusive in some way, even though they don't explicitly state that. It seems like he's kind of off in the other room being an asshole.
Yeah, they definitely
the mom's
hinted
kind
that.
of like left, to deal with pick up the pieces, and just she seems really beaten down by life and by her marriage.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's anxiety inducing. It in some ways really reminded me of The Novice, which we talked
Yes.
about a while ago, the movie about rowing. This is about cheerleading, but similar level of kind of pressure and anxiety in our main character and what she's going through, which I think is best exemplified by her anxiety-induced hair pulling, like pulling out her eyebrow hair, and that intensifying over the course of the movie, and getting to be pretty rough. What else am I forgetting about? I mean, there's a scene later on in the movie where she drops someone, and that person gets very seriously injured, and so she's kind of dealing with the emotional gravity of that and trying to kind of figure out if she can even stay on the squad or not to make it to the competition. And she ends up going out drinking. She goes out to this gay club where the other coach apparently like dances and parties there. And so she sneaks in with a fake ID she got conveniently from one of the other teammates, like very early in the movie, gets drunk. He finds her there and then takes her back to his apartment to like sober up. And then, they kind of chat and have kind of a heart-to-heart conversation. And yeah, what else? What am I forgetting? Anything else important to the plot?
There's the being on the team puts pressure on the relationship between Riley and Amanda.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. Well, Amanda straight up quits because she's not going to be bullied by the
Yes.
coach.
Right.
Rachel
yeah.
Wood.
That's true. And yeah, and Riley doesn't handle that well. She basically like without saying explicitly implies like, oh, if you quit, I'm breaking up with you.
Yeah. And then has to dig her way out of that.
Yeah.
Literally through the trash.
That's right, with the trash. That's right.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Amanda works at the movie theater and she goes to make amends, and she's helping her, clean up the bathroom, the women's room, taking out the trash and cleaning out the tampon box and stuff.
Yeah. And I just want to say, as a woman who goes into the women's room, those tampon boxes are fucking disgusting. Just saying. If you don't know, they're gross.
Noted.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what else to say other than, yeah, noted. Okay.
Yeah. Well, Evan, what did you think of Backspot?
I liked this. Like I said, it definitely gave me vibes similar to The Novice, especially when you're seeing her body and the other people on the team, their bodies just taking so much abuse from this. They've got, bruises and blisters, and their feet are just like full of holes and blisters, and it looks rough.
That split that they're pushing Rachel into. Jesus.
That's disturbing.
Oh yeah, that's a brutal scene to watch. When Rachel is like, the coach is like trying to push her into the split, and then she says, "Oh, here, Riley, you take over." Like, "Oh yeah, just dig your your knee into her back." And
yeah.
And then there's the slow motion scene where Riley gets kicked in the face accidentally, and then there's blood that's just like running down immediately, and then
Speaking of tampons, does she use some to plug up her bloody nose?
Yeah. I don't want to say that's a common thing, but could be.
I've been told that people do it.
It's a common thing.
They're absorbent, right?
They are very absorbent. Yes, that's correct.
So yeah, I liked this. I think I didn't love it. I'm still kind of digging into the why of that. But I definitely found it anxiety inducing. I definitely felt the pressure that Riley feels in the film. I think the cheerleading scenes work pretty well. I think they're interestingly shot and edited. I did like in the beginning when we had those kind of GoPro shots, those first person, cheerleading
you
acrobatics.
Mean like during the credits?
Yeah, during the very opening of the film at the practice, when you're seeing the first person, flipping around and stuff like that. I thought that was cool. I didn't think the GoPro stuff worked later on when they're all kind of running around partying and stuff. That to me felt kind of like corny. Didn't quite work. And I think the movie is strongest when it's in the cheerleading sections, and I think narratively it's a lot weaker in the character stuff. Like the stuff with the mom feels kind of underbaked, and it feels like it's not a great performance from Shannon Sossman, who I've seen in some other things, but like a long time ago. Like
I haven't seen her in a while. I'm sure she's been around
recently.
She has,
that felt like kind of a weak link performance. Evan Rachel Wood, I think, is okay, but I mean, I think she's her character's supposed to be kind of like stiff and standoffish and shitty. So I guess she does play that rather well. I don't know. It's frustrating as, like watching a coach who's like that. I've had coaches like that, when I played sports, and it's not a way to be a coach. To be such a jerk to people and push people to their limit and worse, and to tell them like, "Oh, you can't be a person, you can't have emotions," which I understand. She's saying, as gay people, we, have to be tougher than everyone else. We have to stand up to, other people's, prejudice against us. And as women, we need to also be tough to deal with, prejudice. But I think it's a great counterpoint to see the other coach and the way that he approaches her with kindness and with understanding and sympathy, which I think is truly the mark of a good coach, is that someone knows when to push their athletes and when to treat them with kindness and respect and understanding. And I loved that scene where she has like her gay elder helping her do her makeup. I just thought that was like really sweet, the way he was kind of like helping her fill in her eyebrows. And I don't know, I thought that scene was really sweet and worked really well for me. So
sidebar, that's Anastasia Beverly Hills eyebrow pencil, which is the same one I use.
Nice.
It's a great eyebrow pencil.
It was just nice to have an adult in the movie not be a total douchebag, in that scene.
Totally. Although Amanda's mom is lovely.
She is.
Yes, but Amanda has the typical "Mom, you're embarrassing me" kind of thing. So
you're very right.
So yeah, I think when the movie's about cheerleading and focusing on the cheerleading, I think it's really strong, and the team dynamics and the coach dynamics. I just feel like some of the other stuff is a little bit weaker. I think the relationship between Riley and Amanda feels real. I think the chemistry is good between them. They feel like a real couple. So that, I think, works. It's just some of the like tertiary characters and plots that are going on that I don't doesn't work as well. I did feel like that one friend's girlfriend who was really judgy about the cheerleading stuff definitely deserved that angry kind of like rant that Riley has, like about, like don't come in here and like, shit on what we're doing. Like you can have your opinions, but don't just show up here and like try to make us feel bad about doing something that we really like and we find empowering, even though we can acknowledge the kind of, the patriarchal parts of the costuming and stuff and the original kind of like thoughts behind cheerleading. I thought that was a good scene and that person deserved kind of like getting chewed out a little bit.
But I think the reaction is really interesting in that I agree, but I also disagree in a way, because I think it's interesting that the plus size cheerleader is like, no, she's right. And she agrees with her. And Riley's like, what are you talking about? And she's like, I'm just as good of a cheerleader as you. And I didn't get picked. And she's like, because I don't look like you, because she's not as thin and she's not as conventionally pretty. And so I like that we get that. And it's like, I think it's a really good depiction of, this, this woman character, this young woman character is coming in and being so critical, which is so obnoxious. And especially her comment about, cheerleading not being a quote real sport, which is so offensive. But at the same time, she is right. Like there are absolutely, like you said, there's absolutely sexist elements in the costuming and, there are problems. And so then I think that's interesting that we get the other cheerleader's perspective. And then Riley's like, basically like, that's ridiculous. That's bullshit. And then Amanda's like, no, she's right. And like, so I like that we're seeing the disagreements among the young women. Because it is complex.
Yes. As one character says, I contain multitudes.
Yes.
in a joking statement. Well, what about you, Megan? What'd you think?
Oh, I thought this was great. I was very excited for a queer sports movie. And I think Devery Jacobs is great. And I love that she is queer and she's First Nation. She's Mohawk and she is portraying an Indigenous queer character here, which I think is great. I really love her performance. I too, very much like you, Evan, got the novice vibes. Although I will say that I think Isabel Fuhrman's performance is more ferocious. And I think that film definitely leans into horror vibes much more and like thriller, like in its intensity. But yes, absolutely. It definitely is delving into a lot of the same themes as far as submitting your body to physical punishment, pushing it to and past its limits for what you want, the panic attacks, the obsessive nature, the jettisoning everything else in your life in order just to focus on this. And I think it does all of that really, really well. I actually really liked Evan Rachel Wood's performance. I like her tremendously too. I've always liked her in things, and I think she's great here. Again, love seeing a bisexual actor portraying a queer character. I think that's great. I love how Riley gets really excited when she finds out the coach, Eileen, is queer too, that she has an ex-wife, because she feels like she wants even more of her approval and more of her validation. And I like that she's such an awful hard ass, but at the same time, she, you kind of, not you feel sympathy for her, but you kind of see where she's coming from in her very fucked up, misguided way of coaching. Because she's like, you can't show weakness, you can't show emotion, you can't show pain because this world isn't kind to weak people. And I know, like, in her warped, fucked up way, she's like, I'm helping you. But really, she's just being, toxic and emotionally abusive. And so, but I think that that's interesting. There's some interesting interplay there and dynamics there. I wish we kind of got to delve into that even more. But I do like her performance. I like the actress who plays Amanda. I liked her performance, and I agree with you, Evan. I think their relationship feels really authentic. I like that we get I'm not into montages, but with that opening montage, or the montage of their relationship, it feels very sweet and very silly and very playful, but also very tender and intimate. And I like that it kind of sets the stage for their rapport. And I also think it's really interesting. There's a lot of interesting visual juxtapositions. Like, for instance, the scene of the nosebleed where she has the tampon up her nose and Riley has like crusted blood all over her face. But the assistant coach tells her, like, because she's so worried about her nose swelling. She's like, oh my God, I'm going to get kicked off the team. And he's like, no, you're not. No, you're not. Eileen really likes you. And as soon as she hears that, she's like grinning this enormous grin. And it's like so fucking disturbing with her like blood crusted face and a tampon hanging out her nose. And it's like so creepy. And like there are a lot of like kind of juxtapositions like that. Like you said about the bruises in the shower, and like, but she's like delighted that she's like sticking the landing and that she's getting approval from Eileen and all of that. And then I also think it's interesting the way the cheerleaders are on the JV squad or the school squad. I also wasn't entirely clear on that, but the way they're so like supportive of one another in the beginning, and they're holding hands and they're high-fiving and they're hugging. And then towards the end of when they're practicing for competition, that team, they all just have these like stunned, almost like drained reactions on their faces. Like they've just had enough. They're tired. They're tired of being, talked to and dehumanized in the way they are. And it's totally different. And I like that Riley, to try to bring that back, like holds Rachel's hand under the bathroom stall to try to like boost her spirits because she's crying because she's so nervous about being the lead. And so I think that's lovely. There's some interesting stylistic choices here. I don't think they all work per se. Like the musical choices in the beginning, like the kind of 90s electronic score going on in the GoPro. But yeah, I really liked this. I love that Devery Jacobs did all her own stunts. She's a former gymnast, and I love because I kept looking, and I'm like looking for the cuts, and I'm like, I need to know who was the stunt double, and there wasn't one except for I think like one shot. And I think that's impressive. I think it's really interesting that Devery Jacobs said in an interview with Entertainment Weekly that she never would have gotten this role unless she wrote it for herself. Because even though she didn't write the movie, she worked with W.D. Watterson on the film and for the conception of the film, because they have a production company together. And I like that this is a feature film debut, and I love that it's by a non-binary director. So I think they're bringing in different perspectives than say like if a dude directed this. So overall, I thought this was great.
Nice. Oh no.
Oh boy. So I got to come in and be the fucking wet blanket. God damn it.
You don't have to.
That's true.
But you do if you want to be authentic to yourself, and you do.
Yeah, I know. Old Dave just being a douche. Okay, so here we go. I mean, it's fine. I think that I think the story itself, the pressure and the coach and the home life and the whatever, I think I've seen this before so many different times that it's really not all that interesting to me. What is interesting to me is the lead character is a lesbian, and has a girlfriend on the team, and that the coach is that is all interesting to me just because it's interesting to me. Because it's you don't see that a lot in mainstream movies.
Right, but it also doesn't treat it like it's
right, and it's not like fantastic. It's not like ooh they're gay. It's just like oh we're gay.
Right. It's just matter of fact. Like this is the way it is. Right. Yeah.
I think that like Evan, it's not that I didn't like Evan Rachel's Wood's performance. I think it was written in a her character, like in a way that now I know that real coaches do this because I've had them where they're like sweet 1 minute and then they're a total asshole the next. But this movie's short. And so everything happens in such a compressed period of time that a lot of the emotions to me feel inauthentic just because they happen so quickly.
That's fair.
And I didn't love Evan Rachel Wood's performance. But then, of course, my favorite performance of hers is from Kajillionaire, which is a very unlike her
there.
role.
Yeah, she's amazing in that.
She's great in that, And I remember thinking, like, oh, I like Evan Rachel Wood, but I kind of feel like she's getting into a thing. And then she did that. And I was like, okay, well, this is different.
Yes.
But I also, I don't know Devery Jacobs' work very well, but I do know that she's 30 years old and she looks like a 30-year-old portraying an 18-year-old. So that was a little distracting to me, especially when the other actors seemed like they are much younger. So there were just things like that just kind of kept taking me out of it. But I did think that I don't want to call it stunt work because they were doing their own stunts, but I thought a lot of the cheerleading stuff, just as it looked like those actors and performers were in pain. So kudos to them for going through fucking sacrificing their bodies on that racket.
Yeah, Devery Jacobs said in that interview that it was the hardest prep work she's ever done for a role.
I absolutely believe it because, like you said, when she was doing when she did the audition and she did those two, like,
yes,
the backflips over and over, I'm like, I think that's her.
Right.
Because there's no cuts in that shot unless it's like the best, splicing of whatever ever. So yeah, I think that I think this is like 2/3 of a good movie, but I think that the other thing is about Riley, her character, and I don't think this is Devery Jacobs' fault. I think this is she just goes from being kind of like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed to just like an asshole, for lack of a better word, like immediately. It's like, I understand why we're doing that. But like I was saying before, everything just seems a little too sudden and the tone shifts so often. One thing I will say a lot, and I don't know the performer's name, but the assistant coach who was so lovely, thought that he was great.
Yeah, he is great.
And really dug that. And I thought Amanda was really good too. So, and I liked her role as the kind of, I just liked that she just wasn't going to take any shit and she didn't. She's just like, no, I'm not doing that. And that was just kind of the end of it. She didn't like tell the coach that she was a dick or, she's just like, see ya. I got to go work at the movie theater.
Right.
Yeah.
She said, I can't afford to be concussed or break my neck doing this.
Sidebar, I love the subtle yet not so subtle by the end of the movie class commentary happening in the film.
Absolutely. That I did like that.
Yeah, the fact that I'm sorry, go ahead, please.
Oh, well, we were going to say we didn't really touch on that. We kind of did, but Riley's family has some dough and Amanda's family does not.
Yep.
So
you can tell by their different houses, the fact that Riley isn't working, but Amanda has to work, the talk about the dues, that she kind of gets like a scholarship or whatever, so she doesn't have to worry about the dues, but otherwise she would have. Yeah, I really appreciated that.
Yeah, the fact that Amanda's mom gets them a cake to celebrate making the team.
Yes.
Amanda's visibly uncomfortable with whatever her mom spent on a cake.
Right. She's like, well, we could have made the cake herself. And her mom's like, it's a celebration.
Right.
Yeah.
I know. And it's really sad that a teenager is the one worrying about the finances of the family. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that to me felt very authentic and worked really well.
Totally.
But the thing of it is like, I thought this was great, but I don't disagree with you both. Like, I think some of the characters are a little too thin. I think they could have been fleshed out more. I think the writing in certain spots could have been stronger. So yeah, I don't disagree with you guys.
Yeah, no, and I knew you wouldn't, but I just kind of think that it's just kind of a shame because you can kind of see all the good ideas there and they don't all have time to percolate. And you think to yourself, or I think to myself, well, is it a budget thing or is it because this is the first movie and like we're not as good as we will be 5 movies down the road? Who knows?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. But I will say, having a jerk coach like Evan Rachel Wood does make me think, oh man, all coaches should be like Coach Taylor, Kyle Chandler from Friday Night Lights. He's the best. He's
Never
the
seen
best.
Friday Night Lights.
Oh,
Sorry.
you're missing out. It's so good.
I know.
And I don't
Everybody's
like
like, oh,
sports.
Dave, you'd really like Friday Night Lights.
You
I'm
would.
like, would I though?
You would.
Isn't what's his face Kitch in it? I don't think so.
Oh, he's amazing. It's the best
Taylor is
performance
I'm
of his
sure
life.
he's great.
Trust me. I thought the same thing. I was like, no way is he good. But by the end, you're like, oh my God, he's amazing.
Okay.
But yeah. And I do like that, that the film, I know we touched on this, but I love that the film really treats cheerleading as the athletic sport that it is, because it fucking is. The amount of
Oh,
gymnastics
for sure.
and dance that are happening, like, it's intense.
Yeah. The choreography
Yes.
required the strength to be able to pull your teammates up
Mhm.
and to do all those things. It's no joke.
Yep.
Yeah.
One thing I wish was that the big performance number was longer. It felt
Yeah.
kind of short for being the kind of like epic, competition. I was hoping that there was more there, and then when it was over, I was kind of surprised. Like, oh,
Yeah.
I thought this
And-
routine would be longer.
And being held in kind of a dingy space. I was like, wait a minute. This doesn't feel fucking brouhaha.
Yeah, I do wonder. I thought the same things, and I was wondering if that was an intentional stylistic choice, because it's like, oh, this is just another moment in her life. This
Maybe.
is not the culmination of her life. Like, she's now finally learned to incorporate this into her life, but with other things, and not sacrifice everything else for this.
Hmm.
I would like to believe that was a choice.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
You
In
know?
my head,
Were
that
you
is the choice.
Were you too surprised though that she was still on the team? Because I
Yes.
thought by the end
Yeah.
that she was not going to be on the team anymore, or she
Absolutely.
moved back down to the JV squad because it was not so much pressure.
Yep.
And then I was surprised when she showed up at the gym and Evan Rachel Wood and the other coach were like, "Yeah, come on, okay, let's go. It's time for practice." And it seemed like also the mood was now lighter on the team since I guess
Right.
maybe she made that "come on Eileen" joke or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that felt tonally off.
Yeah.
And also because, the assistant coach is like, she fucking hates that. And then the only thing you get out of Evan Rachel Wood, she just goes, what the fuck? When she's like
Mhm.
walking off screen, it's like, okay, it didn't bother her that much. you
Right.
know, so
Right.
okay.
Yeah, I kind of liked that Riley did it, as kind of corny as it is, because I'm like, oh, she no longer feels the compulsion to have Eileen's approval. So she can
Right.
kind of stand up to her in this kind of a way. But yeah,
Mhm.
then, yeah, it's kind of like it's kind of oh my God, I can't think of the word. Words are hard. It's like kind of like antithetical to the whole like buildup of the film. It's kind of like, oh, well, it's not really that serious. Oh, she didn't have really a volatile reaction. Like,
Yeah, it
Yeah.
feels incongruous to me based on
Yeah.
the information that we were getting before.
Incongruous. Yeah, that's the ticket.
yeah.
Yeah. I also didn't buy Eileen's reaction after the big performance, but that's just me.
Yeah.
being proud of
no,
the team?
No, I'm sure she would be proud of the team, but
Yeah.
the kind of jumping up and down for glee, considering everything that came before it, I don't know.
It did
Yeah.
feel maybe a little eye character for her to be so so visibly excited and rambunctious. And,
Maybe she remembered
hugging
what it was like for
everybody.
her to be a cheerleader.
Maybe, but no, I agree with you, because I feel like this character and performance very much remind me of, not as good as much as I did like this performance, but it very much reminded me of Meryl Streep in Devil Wears Prada, and how ruthless she is, but very quiet in her ruthlessness. And also, even when she gives praise, she's not really giving praise. It's kind of like a little crumb, but she's not really giving you too much. And so it was really kind of jarring in a way to see her so overly excited.
Yeah, and the other thing that makes me think is, all right, now that I've seen the coach this way and she can be this way, why is she such an asshole all the other times?
Maybe she
You
thinks
know?
she needs to be.
Yeah.
I know.
Which-
yes,
yeah.
exactly. But it doesn't, it
Yeah.
is incongruous with what came before.
Yeah. But again, maybe that's the point. Maybe it's the point to show like that's not the real her. You know,
Maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That it's all performative.
All it took was winning to make her feel good
I
again.
guess.
Yeah. I mean,
I
hey,
don't know.
some people, winning's not the only thing.
Yeah. One
Wait, it is the
smart
only
ass,
thing. Right.
one smart ass kid and one big win, and then okay, that's enough to bring her down a notch.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's going to heat up her noodles now, and she's going to stop watching practices on her break.
I mean, cold noodles. Don't knock it. Cold noodles are great.
Seriously.
All right. Do we have anything else we wanted to discuss about Backspot?
I'm good.
Okay. All right. So let's wrap things up here. So The Dead Don't Hurt is going to be playing in theaters. It sounds like an enthusiastic yes from both of you.
Indeed.
Yes.
Nice. Backspot will also be in theaters, and it sounds like a yes around, maybe not the most enthusiastic yes, but where we land on this one.
I liked it, so I would say yes.
Your mileage may vary, but if it's my mileage, it varies less.
Glad you added that qualifier.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say yeah, I would recommend this one. I don't even think I would add your mileage may vary. I think it's good. I think it's definitely got some flaws, but overall the good outweighs the bad. So that's where I land.
Okay.
And I land like this, arms in the air.
You stuck
like
the landing.
Presentation. Yes. How do you like my presentation, coach? Well, that wraps up another episode of Spoiler Beast Theater. Want to say a huge thank you to our editor, Otto Clamor. Otto, thank you for making us sound so great week after week.
Thank you, Otto.
Thanks, Otto.
You can find the show anywhere you get podcasts, but you can also find us over at our website, which is spoilerpiece.com. We are on social media. We're Spoiler Piece Theater on Facebook. We're at Spoiler Piece on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. You can reach out to us and chat us up about these movies or other movies if you so care to. And if you're not into the social meds, as Dave likes to say, you can email us, spoilerpiece@gmail.com, or you can give us a call
at 862-21-PEACE.
You can leave us a voicemail. You can text us, talk to us about these movies, other movies, ask us questions about food and our food opinions, all the above. We're happy to connect with you.
You should eat food.
Yes,
food is good for you.
It is. These are true. These things are true. And if you like the show, please consider rating and reviewing us. You can go to ratethispodcast.com/spoilerpiece, and that will take you to your platform of choice. And yeah, those ratings and reviews just give us some cred out there in the podcast world, and we very much appreciate them. And if you really, really like the show, please consider joining our Patreon. I mentioned at the top of this week's episode, in our bonus audio this week, we talk about the 1993 film The Wedding Banquet, which was the winner of our AAPI Heritage Month poll. So for $5 a month, as I mentioned, you get access to these weekly bonus episodes, and you can also vote in polls like the one I just mentioned. And it's pretty cool. So think about becoming a patron. And thank you if you are a patron. My name is Evan Crean. I am co-chair of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, co-author of Your 80s Movie Guide to Better Living, and co-host of the It's the Pictures podcast. You can follow me on social media as Real Recon, and that's real as in film reel.
My name is Megan Kearns. I write for Edge Media Network. I'm a co-host of the Slashers podcast. I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association and a member of Gallica. You can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at OpinionS World or on Instagram and Letterboxd at The OpinionS.
And my name is Dave Riedels. I write about some shit. I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, and I'm Dave Sees Movies on just about every social media.
Yes, you are.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see you next week.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.